Ryan, what's on your radar?
On Friday night, after Nancy Pelosi muscled the infrastructure bill through Congress over the objections of the squad, there were plenty of people ready to declare the bigger reconciliation bill as good as dead. And it very well might be. The pessimistic case is an easy one to make. Corporate-friendly Democrats in the House and Joe Manchin in the Senate never wanted to pass the big spending bill anyway, and were only pretending to go along with it so they could get their infrastructure bill passed. Now that their bill is safely on its way to Biden's desk, they're free to walk away and kill the Build Back Better Act. That's certainly a possibility, and nobody should be surprised if that happens. The case for optimism is that Congress is measurably closer to passing the reconciliation bill today than they were last week at this time, or the week before, or the week before that. In August and September, both Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema were still holdouts in the Senate, and a group of corporate Democrats in the House was refusing to commit. The provision to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices was up in the air, opposed by Sinema and a bunch of those same House folks. Now, Democrats have Sinema on board. And here's Manchin on the top line number of $1.75 trillion, the child tax credit, universal pre-K, and the climate provisions. Take a listen.
You agreed to $1.75 trillion, yes?
Sure. 1.75. The president and I came to an agreement on 1.75. I was working on 1.5, as you know, and I felt very strongly about that. The president was working very hard, and we had good conversations, we had good dialogue, and we had good negotiations.
Okay.
That's what it's all about.
Okay, so what needs to be in there? What needs to be in there, or what needs to be out of there?
Well, let me tell you the things that we can agree on, that we have agreed on. Child care. We agreed on child care. We've agreed on pre-K 3 and 4. We agreed on in-home services. We agree on basically climate bill that basically uses technology, not just eliminating certain fuels, but technology to use them cleaner, so the world will use them cleaner. Because the world is using more fossil than ever before. If the United States of America doesn't find a pathway forward and a breakthrough in technology, then the world will get much worse, because 90% of pollution will come from Asia, which is going to be really from China. China has 3,000 coal-fired plants. We have 500. And my environmental friends will make you believe that the 500, and they're the cleanest ones in the world, the 500 are polluting the whole world. They're just not being accurate.
In that interview, he said he also wanted to see a CBO score because people are worried about inflation. And if he does kill it, that'll be his excuse. Over on the House side, Josh Gottheimer and his gang have also been demanding a CBO score, and they refused to vote for the bill Friday without one. But in a deal between that crew, Pramila Jayapal and the CPC, the White House, and congressional leadership, the Gottheimer gang agreed they'll pass the bill if the CBO score lines up with what they've been told it'll be. It's worth taking a look at the language of the commitment made by Josh Gottheimer and those 4 other Democrats and look for holes in it. Here's what they signed on to. We commit to voting for the Build Back Better Act in its current form, other than technical changes, as expeditiously as we receive fiscal information from the Congressional Budget Office, but in no event later than the week of November 15th, consistent with the top line for revenues and investments in the White House preliminary budgetary estimate of the Build Back Better Act document presented to the Democratic caucus on November 4th, 2021 by the White House. Further, in the event the fiscal information received from the Congressional Budget Office is inconsistent with the, quote, White House preliminary budgetary estimate of the Build Back Better Act document, we remain committed to working to resolve any discrepancies in order to pass the Build Back Better legislation. So the 6 Democrats in the squad all voted against the bipartisan bill, and AOC said afterward on Instagram Live that she didn't trust the commitments being made.
I really want to be wrong. I really want the Build Back Better Act to be put up in 2 weeks without cuts, without any more cuts than so much of what has been cut, as it is, and I want it to be signed into law. What I saw happening yesterday was shaking my confidence in whether that was going to happen. And in my community, the message that you all were sending to me was very clear, was to do everything you can to make sure that we deliver this.
Now, AOC has every reason not to trust the Gottheimer gang. And if it were a deal between the squad and Gottheimer, you can be sure Gottheimer would stab them in the back. But this is a deal with the president, and that's much harder to break. So there are basically two possibilities the next 2 weeks. The CBO score comes back and it's in line with what's expected, or it comes back and it's out of line with what was expected. They will hit their deadline, and if they don't, fine. They're committed to passing it by the week of November 15th. Now, if it comes back in line, those Gottheimer Democrats will vote for it. I know people are skeptical and think they can't be trusted, and in general, they can't. But if you make a promise like that to the President of the United States, you're going to do it. If it comes back a bit out of line, it can be fixed easily. And if it's wildly out of line, a big chunk will get taken out of it. The most likely of those is that it comes back in line with the CBO estimate, and next week the House passes it. That puts it in Joe Manchin's lap. Manchin has said he wants to pause and slow down and watch the inflation numbers, but he has also cut a deal with Biden at $1.75 trillion. And for whatever reason, Manchin has decided that he doesn't want to destroy Biden's presidency by taking this down. Now, just because he agreed to $1.75 trillion doesn't mean he'll stick by that. And he'll certainly go in and start stripping programs like paid family leave. But Manchin was always going to be the final boss this bill had to beat. Will it beat him? I think so, but nobody knows. But Democrats will at that point have the fight they want, negotiating with Manchin as the last obstacle to passage after Manchin has already made a commitment to the president. A lot of people out there seem willing to bet pretty heavily that this sucker is dead. Maybe, but things are lined up to get it through. Toward the end of her live stream, AOC added that she thinks the pressure of the deal will indeed lead to something passing. But what that is remains to be seen.
The president gave his word. The speaker gave her word. You know, we've got the Senate, that this thing is going to happen. And I really hope that they deliver on that promise. So do I think it will pass? I believe that there are some sweeteners. There's enough sweeteners for the wealthy in the Build Back Better Act to continue to incentivize some of the most conservative Democrats to want something passed. I just really hope that the things for working people aren't gutted from it in the process. And I hope that our climate and that our emissions targets aren't gutted in the process, because this is our one shot. This is our one shot.
And so, Robbie, I think that is actually the bigger question. Rather than will it pass or not, I think it will pass. I think the question is actually, what's it going to look like when it gets through? Because I think too many people at this point, the president, the Speaker of the House, even Manchin, Sinema, Jayapal and the CPC, they are all kind of committed. They've all held hands and jumped and said, no, we are doing this. So I think they're going to do this, but what the definition of this is, I think, is what's the key question, rather than there will be a this.
No, I completely agree with you. I mean, just in practical terms, I think it is going to happen. It would be a kind of hilarious self-inflicted wound if they pass nothing at this point. Would be so maybe you can't totally rule that out, because whatever forces are guiding, whatever there were a lot of media people were joking last year that this is a scripted drama, and the writers are. It would be a really funny episode for the writers to do, where just this all blows up and the Democrats in disarray permanently forever. But no, I don't think that's going to happen. I think they are going to pass something for all the reasons you explained, but Manchin is going to have a lot of final say to do a line item veto of things that for whatever reason he doesn't like, and those don't correspond to what's popular or what's the most it's just what he feels like.
Right, and there was a lot of punditry over the weekend about whether or not the squad made the right call in voting no, and whether or not everyone should have joined them, whether Jayapal caved and blundered and now has given away all of her leverage, and I think the answer to both of those is that we don't know yet. We will know in the final analysis.
I can see the argument that they should have voted for the infrastructure. That would have put them in a better position, the squad. Right. I can see that argument, but it makes them look, obstinate, like they don't want to get along. But I think, again, as you explained, I think Gottheimer's going to come along, because I think the CBO score will be reasonably close, and so then there won't be much more opposition on his part.
Yeah, I don't see the CBO blowing this up.
Yeah,
and now they know exactly. This is a weird situation for the CBO. here's the number. If you hit this number, it passes.
Right. You have to wonder how much, how much partisan influence there is in that place. It's something we probably all wonder from time to time.
I mean, how bad do you have to, like, if you're a CBO bureaucrat and you can move the numbers around based on assumptions that you make, do you want to be the one who's like, going to kill it?
Right. No.
No,
unless there's a secret, like, libertarian hiding in that office being like,
Right, so the numbers will probably come back just fine.
Yeah.
For that reason.
But so then we'll see
which also makes them, worthless, but whatever.
Right. Then we'll see what Manchin has to say. That's what it will. That's what it will come down to. I wonder, do you think he enjoys this role as the
every
the
minute
spotlight?
of it? Maybe not when his Maserati's surrounded, but otherwise he's enjoying every minute.
By
of
climate
it.
activists yelling at him incoherently about nothing useful. But
well, that he's a jerk.
Right.
I mean, it's coherent. So, anyway, Team Rising joins us next.